Hi, my name is Lawrence, and I've been a web developer for over 15 years, and having the right text editor in order to write your code is extremely important. So I've used a number of different editors, and lately I've been working with brackets quite a lot. So as well, for a number of the courses that I've been putting out, I'm using brackets. And originally I was using Dreamweaver. I've used Dreamweaver for over 15 years, and I'm a regular Dreamweaver user, but the one problem with Dreamweaver is that it's not free. And I've got a lot of people contacting me and commenting on that they wanted to use the same text editor that I'm using within the courses. So that's why I started using brackets, and I found that brackets is a really good alternative. One thing is that the best thing about it is that it's open source, so it's free to download, and it's also by Adobe, so you know it's going to be a really cool, powerful editor, and it comes full of really good, amazing features. So I'm going to be talking about how to use brackets, all the really cool things that are available within brackets, as well as an overview of accessing and working with brackets. So all the different functionality that we have within the dashboard here, and the ability to do some really neat things, including the live preview, which gives us the ability to preview code in a live display, and as well, whenever we're updating that code, that would directly update within the display as well. So we can see this within this example. We're also going to be looking at doing a quick edit. So we can set up a brand new rule, and we see that automatically it shows up here. We've got a drop down of a lot of different options for colors as well, and save that, and we can see that immediately that update takes place, and we see that we've got that new updated green text. And we can also flip into our CSS, and we can see that now we've got an update on the background color there as well. So a lot of really cool options with brackets. So I'm going to be highlighting those, as well as providing resources to get extensions, and just in general, a lot of really cool things about brackets. So I'm going to be going over them. As well, I'm going to be also introducing XAMPP. So XAMPP is relatively straightforward, and it's what I use to get localhost within a lot of the courses, and it's just really simple to set up. So if you do need a server environment on your computer, then XAMPP is probably one of the quickest ways to get that set up and started. So you can download XAMPP. They have a version for Windows, Linux, and OS X. So I'm going to be quickly going over XAMPP as well within this course. Within this course, I want to answer some questions that I get asked on a regular basis. And one of them is, what editor am I using? What editor do I prefer to use? And as well, how do you get localhost on your computer? So first of all, the editor that I've been using in a last number of courses is called Brackets. So this is an open source editor. It's available from Adobe, and it's available at brackets.io. And the reason I've been using brackets, I was using Dreamweaver for a while, and I had a lot of feedback that, well, Dreamweaver costs money, and people were looking for another solution, another text editor that they could use in place of Dreamweaver. So I searched around, I tried to look at a few different editors that were open source, and that's when I found Brackets. And I thought that Brackets really does provide a really powerful text editor that's free to download, and it's also got a really good name behind it because it's an Adobe product, so they bring in a lot of support into it, and there's a whole lot of things that you can do. So when you go to the website, you can just kind of look over and you get a brief glance to see all of the different really cool things that are available within Brackets. So one of them is code hints from a PSD. So you can actually bring in a PSD file and get actual code hints within Brackets. There's also inline editors, there's a live preview, and a pre-processor support for SCSS and less. So that really right out of the box gives you a lot of really cool functionality that you don't always find in other editors. So if you're using things like Notepad or any ones that are just more of a plain text editor, you might be pleasantly surprised with what Brackets has to offer. So in addition to Brackets, I'm also using XAMPP. So XAMPP allows me to run localhost, and what I'm running in the background is just my XAMPP control panel. So this is it right here. All I have to do whenever I want my local machine to run, I just start that up. I also have the ability to support MySQL, so if I do need a database, I can just simply hit start, and that starts that up as well. And then FileZilla, Mercury, and Tomcat are also available in XAMPP. So this gives you a PHP, MySQL ready development environment. So all you have to do is just go download it and run through the install. And once you're up and running, you're ready and set to go with localhost right on your Windows machine. So I'm going to go through, within the upcoming lessons, I'm going to go through Brackets and really highlight some of these really cool features that Brackets has to offer. And as well, I'm going to go through some more information about XAMPP. So XAMPP, again, just like Brackets, you can work across platforms, so Windows, Linux, OS X, and the same thing for Brackets. So just download the appropriate version for your machine and then extract it and do the install. So and both of these are very straightforward when you're doing the install. And you should be able to get up and running with both of them fairly quickly on your computer. So coming up, I'm going to talk more about Brackets, and I'm going to open up Brackets and show you all the really cool things that are available within Brackets. In order to install Brackets on your computer, so I'm going to walk you through an install on a Windows machine. Go over to brackets.io, go to download Brackets, run the download install file. This will bring you over to the Brackets installer. So first of all, it's going to ask you the directory to install it. So here you can change it. You can also just leave it as default. So usually I just leave it as a default, so it's fine going into my program files. And then next, it's just going to prompt you to install, to begin the install. So you can just go ahead and click install. And this is going to walk you through the Brackets install. So it's going to walk you through the progress of the install. And then upon completion, it'll allow you to run that program. So this is the same thing if you're doing an update. If you have an older version of Brackets, you still have to go through the same install process as well. And once it completes the validating of the install, if you already have Brackets, make sure that it's closed and it completes the progress of doing the install. And once you see it's finished, then you can simply click Finish and go over to start your brand new version of Brackets that's just been installed on your system. So again, depending on if you selected a desktop shortcut, you'll have one of those as well. And this is Brackets. So I just did an update, so that's why I'm opening up at where my files were within the previous work and project that I was working on. So that's how you do the Brackets install directly from the Brackets.io site from scratch. Now to start out, I'm going to show you how I've set up my XAMPP. So by default, you set up XAMPP, and XAMPP will run wherever the install directory is. So you have XAMPP wherever you've set it to install, and you're going to have all of your default folders there. Now there's a really quick way to update where the folders are pointing. So all you have to do, again, open up your control panel for XAMPP. So that means just run XAMPP. So you don't necessarily need to start it yet. Go over to config and select this first file here, this httpd config file. And from here, this is giving you all that configuration information for XAMPP. So what I usually do is I redirect it to whatever folder I want to use on my computer. So for this course, I'm going to be using a folder called Websites Course. So let's look at it on my H drive, and it's going to be called Web Dev. So this is a folder that I've already created, and I know where the path is. And this is just a quick way to set up multiple folders and just redirect it. So now whenever I go over to my web dev folder and access the files in there, so I'm going to be doing that through XAMPP. So I've got already my web dev folder hooked up, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well within XAMPP. So we see here that I've got my index page, and I'm just going to call it here page ready. So going out to here, I'm still pointed at that old folder where I had these old files, and I've brought my new files over to here. I've got that index and the style files that I've brought over to the web dev folder. So all I have to do now is I have to actually stop it, wait for it to stop, and then restart it. So once the server restarts, it's going to redirect to that new folder that I've just set up, that web dev folder, and I can see now I've got the ability to update that file within brackets because I'm opening up that file within brackets. So now that's all we really have to do for XAMPP. And of course, if you're setting up databases, there's some more configuration as well, and there's some more advanced stuff. But this is just to demonstrate how you can get to localhost and how you can change the folders where your localhost is running out of. So I'm going to move that one aside, and I'm going to open up brackets. So within brackets, the first thing that I usually do is when I've set up that brand new folder, I need to point to that folder within my working files and have access to all of the files in the folder. So you just go over to here to File, and here you have the ability to open a file, to start a new file. You can do a close as well. You can close all the open files. So I can do something like close all, close up these files. And now if I go to open folder, I can open it up to a brand new folder, or I can open up to the existing folder. And when I do open folder, it currently by default is sitting on that web dev folder where it was sitting before. And I'm just going to open that again because I'm not sure what happened there. But so now I can simply browse through and select the folder that I want to use. So I still want to use this web dev folder. So I simply do select folder, and that will populate that folder into the menu here, and then I can simply select out the files that are available within the folder. So the next lesson, we're going to be looking at some really cool things that you can do with brackets, including the live preview and experimental live preview. So there's a few options there, and then as well as adding in extensions. So we'll be going over that in the upcoming lesson. So as promised, there's some really cool things with brackets, and within this lesson I'm going to show you one of the really cool things. So all of these are very straightforward. You could save all, or you could save as. So if I want to rename this and save it as something else, I'd do save as. If I had a whole bunch of files open that I had made updates to, and I can just do a quick save all. So those are very straightforward parts within the menu. But then we also have this enable experimental live preview. We have live preview, which we can do as well. So there's a few different things there. So whenever I enable, and if I go to live preview, we see that it opens up this localhost type server where we've got this port, we've got our index.html. So this is actually running separately off of what XAMPP is doing. And that's what the really neat thing about this live preview is, that if I make some updates to here within the code, I can see it directly being displayed right out on my web page. And then I can make whatever updates I want, and I can see it. So if you're using two screens, if you've got a split screen, couple monitors set up, you can have brackets on one end, you could be making the updates, and another one you could actually be seeing what your web page is going to look like. So this goes for CSS as well. So if you do some updates to the CSS, so I'm going to do an update on that output there. And I'm going to add in a color. And another really cool thing about brackets, they give you the option for all these predefined colors. So that's another really cool thing, because whenever you're trying to struggle to find all those colors, sometimes it does take a while if you want, other than if you're using those primary colors like the red, blue, green, yellow. So it does give you that ability to select those. And now I can flip back to my index page and I can see that I've already updated. I can see what it looks like on the web page, and that goes for even when I refresh it. I can see that live preview. And then when I go, of course, to the local host, I can see the same thing. And so just one note here, make sure that you've enabled the live preview. So that gives you the ability to do the live preview, because if you try to do it without the live preview, I'll just show you what happens here. So we don't actually have that ability. It's not as seamless as when we're just going directly with that experimental live preview. So slightly different, but you still do get the results and you still can see it. So that's with it checked off, and this is with it. And just to illustrate that it does work without the XAMPP, so now I've disabled my local host, so when I refresh it, I'm not going to see anything there, but if I go and if I refresh my live server from brackets, I can still see it there as well. And the difference between enabling this and not enabling it, you have the option for project settings. So when you disable that experimental live view, then you don't have that option to set your project settings. But if you disable it, you do have the option to set project settings. If you enable it, then it's just going to run through the default live preview settings. So project settings, you can set actually a local host machine that you want to use for your live preview. So if I do have XAMPP enabled, and if I want to run my live preview on XAMPP, then I would set it up here within the project settings. So I'm going to go ahead and enable my XAMPP again, and the next lesson we're going to look at the extension manager. So extension manager is really neat because it provides you a whole bunch of capabilities within brackets that allow you to bring in really neat things and update your brackets directly through that extension manager. So we'll be looking at that in the upcoming lesson. So when they say brackets is open source, it is truly open source, as all of the source code is available on GitHub. So it's available at adobe/brackets, and as you can see here, they've got a link back to the brackets main site and open source text editor. So they have all of those source files here. They have some samples and a whole bunch of really neat stuff. They've got some more information about brackets here. So they're talking about how it's a very clean panel. It's not very cluttered. So that's very true with brackets, that we don't see a lot of those panels that are getting in the way. So it's a very straightforward editor. And as well, we looked at the brackets and how it's able to sync to the browser. So again, like what we were looking at within the last one, where we've got this ability for the live display and edits and so on to happen directly within the editor. So this is even before I'm saving stuff. So it's got that, definitely a really cool feature within it, syncing with the browser. And as well, do it yourself, brackets open source, and you can build the best editor, so if you want to even contribute to brackets, you have the ability to do so as well. So here they also have some additional information. So they've got some more intro videos that are on YouTube. They have the brackets blog, which will give you the latest information, screenshots for brackets, and also here's some instructions, how to download it, how to install it. So here's exactly what we went over in the last one. When we're getting started, we open a folder and we're ready to go with all of the files available within that folder. And then in addition, if you want to help submit bugs, you've got all of that ability as well. And there's a feature backlog. This gives you some more information on what's being worked on. So they've got all of this information here, which is really cool, and it's really great to be able to access this if you need to. But if you're not really interested in that, you can just go ahead and use brackets and download it and work with whatever content is provided within brackets. Now within brackets as well, we have a whole bunch of really cool add-ons that we can do within the extension manager, and this extension manager really provides a bunch of themes. It allows you to search out different add-ons and that you can add in. So here we've got a listing of all these different available ones, and we're going to look at this in more detail in the upcoming lesson, but we can see that there's a lot of things that are available here, and this really gives you the ability to quickly customize and update your brackets application. So we're going to look at that in more detail coming up in the next lesson. When it comes to extensions, there's a lot of options for extensions, and they're so easy to install in brackets. So here's a website that has a whole listing of different extensions, and these are all available directly within your brackets as well. So I'm going to look at some of these themes. So if I want to change mine to my rainbowish theme, I could open up brackets. I can go over to here, hit Extension Manager, and I see that I've got all of these available extensions and themes. So just got to give it a second here to load them up. So I have two choices. Either I can download them as a zip file and then even drag them and drop them over here, or if I've got an install URL, I can add that in there, or I could simply go through here and see all of these available extensions. And then here, similarly, there's all these available themes. So if I wanted to get that rainbow theme, so take a quick look, and we have the ability to do a search. So we see that here's that rainbowish theme. So we don't actually have to go and download it from here. I can just simply do an install here and give it a few minutes. Install failed. So let's see what happened there. Maybe I'll try another one there and see why it's not installing. So that one was successful. So for whatever reason, there was an error there. So now that I've installed the theme, I can close up Extension Manager, go over to View, Themes, and here I can select those brand new themes. So I guess it did install that rainbowish after all, and we can see the difference there immediately as soon as I update that. So that's all a lot of different really cool things you can do with themes as well. So if I do done, so this one does stand out quite a bit more. Also, when we're looking at that, we have the ability to use theme scroll bars. We also have the font size as well as the font family. So we can set those and update those as needed here. So I have my font size fairly large, and the reason is because I'm doing these screen captures, so I do really want all of my code really to stand out and to be very visible. So that's why I've got my font fairly large, but you can always reset it and change your font size to whatever size you want. So within the next lesson, we're going to be looking at, again, with Extension Manager and all of these available add-ons that are available, or the extensions that are available here directly within brackets. So we're going to take a closer look at them and show you some of these really cool ones that are available within brackets that you can bring in. So adding extensions for brackets is really easy to do, and some of these must-have extensions, one that I absolutely can't do without is the Beautify extension. So I use this on a regular basis, and this allows you to format HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with JS Beauty. So you can see that I already have Beautify installed here, so there's some more information on it here as well. So if I wanted to open that up, and it opened up in my other browser, so I can just copy and paste it there. And we see that this one as well, it's available within GitHub, so we can see all that information here and what's involved with it. So we can see what it's doing, more details, and so on. So that's Beautify, and what this one does is when I'm writing out some code, so if I have a whole bunch of bad formatted code, so if I have something like this, I can save it, and now when I right click here, so I've got my quick edit, which we're going to look at in the upcoming lessons, which is another really cool thing that Brackets has to offer. There's quick docs, select all, so I've already actually selected all with the Control A, and Beautify. So what Beautify does is that reformats some of the code. So although it didn't fix all this white space here within that HTML, it does reformat my code so it's more readable. So if I didn't have this indented or something like that, that way we would see more of what Beautify is doing. So we can see that it does the indentation and so on. So it's probably not the best example because usually you'd have a whole ton of code, and when you do Beautify you'd see quite a bit of difference. So I don't really have too much going on here with HTML and with CSS and JavaScript, so that's why we're not really seeing too much happening here. But again, Beautify is another one of those ones that it's a must-have extension. Definitely add that into your extension list. So there's also some additional really cool ones. So if you're using Angular, of course, Angular is becoming really popular, and if you do use Angular on a regular basis, there's a few that do code hinting for Angular. So Material Angular code hints, Angular snippets as well, Angular JS for brackets. So a lot of really cool stuff with Angular. Another one that's really neat is the brackets CSS. So you can see that it's going to finish up that search there. So this one over here where we've got the CSS color preview, so preview colors with your CSS file. So I close it and go into my CSS. And now when you go into the CSS, I had to restart the application so I can enable it, and I have the ability to toggle it on and off. So any styling that I do, any colors that I add in, so if we're unsure what a particular color looks like, we can see it here within that preview area on the left hand side. And we can see yellow stands out a little bit better. So we see that we've got that ability here. And then this is also really useful because sometimes if you're using these odd color patterns, as well as if you're opening up a style sheet and you've got a whole bunch of color themes it's a lot easier to spot out the colors when you see them here on the left hand side. So another one that's really cool extension to add in here. So this is going to be a brackets file tabs. And what this is going to do is it's going to update where your tabs are located. So sometimes you might not want them here on the left hand side, so you want them here at the top. And the way to do that is update and set up another extension. And let's wait for that one to install as well. So see, that's successful. We've got that installed, and so again, we're going to have to restart the application to, I believe, to show you, oh no, we've got it here. So showing working files as tabs. So when I enable that, I can see the working files as tabs there. So you've probably seen this in a bunch of other editors. So this type of tabbing here at the top. So now I can even hide the sidebar. And I can just use the tabs here at the top to navigate between the different files. So in the next lesson, I'm going to talk more about the different extensions and talk again about some really cool extensions that are worth checking out within brackets. So it's coming up in the next lessons. So I also wanted to go back to index here, and we saw earlier we had that issue with the white space. So there's actually a white space normalizer, and as well as a few different really cool linting applications, extensions. So we can see. So we see that this has actually ended, it's disconnected because I had to restart brackets. And when we just go by default, we don't actually have that working. So here again, we've got all these really cool extensions. So the one that we want to look at is that white space normalizer. So it's probably, I'll look that up here. So white space normalizer. So what this one does is this trims trailing white space, transforms tabs to spaces, add new lines at the end, and so on. And you see here there's quite a few different customized ones that people have created. So this is a constantly growing list of available extensions that you could add, as well as the themes. There's always a whole bunch of new themes and some really cool themes. So this is an ever expanding list as well. And when it comes to linting, so there's JS hint support for brackets. So that's another really cool one. PHP code, SCSS lint, HTML lint. So really cool linting, depending on what you're looking for. There's a CSS lint as well, coffee lint, and there's some really customized lints, PHP linter as well. Python, JSON to make JSON look nice. So yeah, quite a lot that you can do, and quite a lot of really cool things that can be installed. So all you have to do, just open up that extension manager and take a look and search through all the different extensions to really customize brackets to have all those really cool extensions. So in the next lessons, we're going to look through the editing, and we're also going to look through that other really cool thing that is available within brackets, this quick edit. So I'm going to show you how that works in the upcoming lesson as well. So we're going to move on to the edit menu. So within the edit menu, there's all the typical stuff that you can do: copy, paste, cut, undo, redo, select all, select line, split selection into lines, add cursor to previous line, next line. So all these are shortcuts. And typical type shortcuts, so indenting and toggling line comments, blocks, and so on. So you could do the same thing here if you use your keyboard shortcuts, or you could simply select over here within edit as well. So again, we've got some options here. So we've got our white space normalizer, we've got beautify on save. So this automates that beautify option. Let's see if we get rid of some of this white space. And whenever we save it, we see that we're actually getting rid of all that white space. So automatically, I'm just saving it, or I can actually add in some white space. So we see that we definitely have some white space here. And when I hit save, so I was just doing Control S, same thing, saving. I see that I'm getting rid of all that excess white space, and then working that with beautify, and then doing a save on that. So any additional white space that I might have, this is a great way to clean that up. So that, again, that's available. We've got the white space normalizer, trim, and the variations that we can do with the end of line as well. So we can automatically set to beautify on save. So that means that if I've got a whole bunch of excess spacing here and so on, so this should actually clean this up a little bit here. So now when I hit save, we can see that it does do that cleanup there, so it's actually not getting rid of this white space. So this is because this is between the divs there, but it does get rid of the divs at the end there, and whenever I do save it, it does update the formatting there. So it does do the beautify, and I could do an auto beautify. I can also set to auto close braces. So this is another thing that's useful. When I set to auto close braces, any one of these brackets, I'm auto closing. If I disable that, then we see that it's not actually auto closing. So then this is one of those personal preferences. So if you like to have them closing up, then you can set it to auto do that. And if you don't want to have it, then you don't have to turn that on as well. So again, with the showing of the code hints, so here if you want to see all the different code hints that are available, so that's another option there under edit, and the line comments and so on. So there's quite a lot of options you can turn on and turn off as well. So the next lesson, I'm going to look at that one over here, that quick edit, which is one of the really cool things that you can do again with your brackets application. So it's coming up in the next lesson. In this lesson, I want to show you quick edit. So what quick edit does is it allows you to update CSS code without actually having to go over to the CSS or attached style sheet. So when I go over to the style sheet, I cleared out all of the code that I have there, and now I'm going to just work off the index.html page. And if I wanted to update output, I can do quick edit. So on a Windows machine, it's Control E. So again, I need to select that output. And whenever it's selected, we see that we've got this pop-up that shows up when I do the Control E, or I can just do it from the keyboard shortcuts. So right now it says there's no CSS rules that match our selection, so we can create a brand new rule. And I'm just going to do a color here. And we see that we've got that color showing up, and all I have to do is just close that up, and we see that it's automatically updated my CSS with the brand new color. So now if I went to like a live preview, opened up in my other browser, So live preview, we can see that it's updated that color already. And if I wanted to make some edits to it, so I can do again that quick edit there, and if I wanted to change this to blue or something like that, we can see that right away we get those updates happening. And then when we close this, go over to style, we see that's already updated here, and we see it's already updating within that live preview as well. So that's just quick edit, and we see that when we've got the live enabled, when we do make the changes, we see that it's being updated here within that live preview directly as well. And then when we're finished, or if we want, we can add in additional new rules as well, and we've got the ability to flip through the different rules. So if I want to have multiple outputs there, and maybe in this one I want to contain my background color, we can see that that automatically, and again it's updating there, and I can close that up and go over to my CSS, and now I've even got two output styles there for that output ID. So that's quick edit, and that's another one of those really cool things that comes with brackets and saves you the ability of flipping between different files, especially if you just want to do a quick update on the CSS. So if you wanted to learn more about brackets, if you go to the Adobe Brackets GitHub repository, there's a tab here called Wiki, and this will give you a whole bunch of more information about how to use brackets. So we've got the split view here, which we're going to talk about as well. So the extensions that we've talked about, how to look up and get additional extensions, and here's a extension registry, so more extensions, themes. This is the quick edit that we had looked at. So we've got the ability to access CSS through quick edit, the live preview, which we looked at, and live preview with SCSS, less other limitations, quick view, and also we have the ability to do command line integration and quick open as well. So if we want to open a file name, we can just do a quick open instead of going over, and we can simply select the file name within that way by starting to type into it. So that's another option there, and we saw that this quick docs as well. I want to flip back into brackets and take a look at view. So we've already we've looked at edit, and find is fairly straightforward, and we've got a listing of all those keyboard shortcuts as well. So find, and we've got the typical find all, select, and then here at the bottom we've got replace, so replace in files. So you have the ability to do a find, replace, and find in files. So there's a lot of different options here for search. So over here within view, so we had looked at this earlier where we can flip through the different available themes that we have and flip through the themes. So that's the default one, that's the dark one. So maybe we'll flip over to this one for now. We also have here where we have the different views. So I can do a vertical view. So this splits them vertically. So I can have two files. I can open up the CSS into the other pane as well. And usually the way that I do it, I'll have the sidebar here, and then I have the ability to go through the different panes as well. So if I can split it horizontally as well and go to the new panes. As we can see here, this isn't really working quite well with the tab, that tab add-on that I've added in. So if I get rid of that, this is going to work a little bit better now. So now I can go to the bottom pane, I can drag it over as well. So that's something to keep in mind with the different extensions. So sometimes they may or may not work with that default functionality. So if I flip back to here, even though I've been able to add that in here, it's still not working ideally So it's taking whatever I had before I added in those tabs. So if I bring it back, I still have that ability to open and close again. So something to keep in mind with the different extensions. And then this, of course, is hiding the sidebar. We also have the ability to increase the font size. So if I was to do, again on the Windows machine, to do Control++, go back to themes, we see that we've increased the font size there. So again, back to decrease it, restore font size to the default size. We can highlight active line. We don't have to highlight it. Options again, line numbers. So if we don't want the line numbers, we can hide those. Word wrap as well. Live preview highlight. So this one's just highlighting that active area. And again, these are all preferences. Also that linting when files are saved, quick view on hover, and then here we've got some collapse options and some additional viewing options. And then these were those extensions that we added on. So we've got our enabling the CSS color preview, so I can quickly uncheck that, and then I won't see, or I shouldn't be able to see, those color previews, even though I can still see them right now. So that's probably something that that's probably one of those extensions that might load on the reload. Okay, that time it disappeared. So those are the options that you have within View, and there's also, whenever you do add in any extensions, you'll find that in some of these menus you're going to see them here at the bottom as additional options. So keep that in mind, that if you're just using that default install of brackets, you won't have all of these ones here at the end, as well as within Edit. So next we're going to look at finalizing with Navigate, Debug, and Help, and we're going to be looking at those options within the upcoming lessons. So within the Navigate menu, so we've got our Quick Edit that we looked at before. Quick Docs, what that does is that allows you to open up docs, documentation from the web platform docs project. So any of these docs that are related there, if you're over the file cursor and if you hit Quick Docs, you have the ability to quickly open those up. So anything that's related to the display of that documentation. Also quick open, so if I want to open any of these files, so if I had a whole bunch of files here, I want to open any of them quickly, I can do that within there. And a lot of these are designed for shortcuts, to be able to just use keyboard shortcuts, so you wouldn't necessarily be going over to Navigate and open docs, or going to File, Open. So relatively the same thing. You'd be looking at doing it within shortcuts. You can also go to a particular line. So here, if we want to go down to a particular line number, we can easily go down to that. And again, these are designed for keyboard shortcuts, so it's not as much designed to go over to Navigate and click those. So Quick Find Definition opens up this menu here, and so we have the ability, that's why I added in some additional IDs there, so we can quickly find it and skip to it. Here, simply we can skip through the different documentation. So again, I only have 2 here, but I can go to Next, I can go to Previous, Show and File Tree as well, so that highlights that over there. So that's what you can do within navigation, and also we've got that Previous, Next, New rule, so under Quick Edit. So if we are doing a quick edit here, we have the ability to go through the next rule, the new rule, previous match, and so on. So we have the ability to flip through all the different rules using the keyboard shortcuts as well. So coming up, we're going to look at debug, we're going to look at help, and as well some additional links for some more information about brackets. So some quick notes with debug. So we've got the option to show developer tools, so that opens up those dev tools, that Chrome dev tools, and gives you some additional information using the dev tools. And this is for debugging brackets. You can reload it and reload it with extensions, reload it without extensions. So if anything is happening or anything going wrong, your extensions are having some issues, you can reload with or without them. You can open up a brand new brackets window as well. So that just opens up another brackets there. And switch language. So this is going to be the actual language, not the programming language, but you can switch to different dashboard or brackets languages. We've got our node debugger, so we can enable that. Log state to console as well. We can restart node, open preferences file. So this is what we were looking at before with these add-ons, where you have the ability to see which or extensions, you have the ability to see what's set by default here. So I can update my font size, and we can see that all of this information is contained within a JSON file. So this can be updated, and this can update our themes, our font size, so we can update that within the JSON file as well. So we've got also user key mat as well. So there's a few different options there. And one other thing I did want to note with brackets, we see down here that we've got some information here. So we've got a line 11, column 12, but we also have the ability to flip through all these different programming languages. So usually it should be able to pick up which one you're on, so it sees that this is CSS and knows that this is HTML. So in case if you're starting out, you've got a brand new doc, you might want to set the default language that you want it to use, so it can better understand and interpret and help out with your coding as you go through there. So lastly, there's help, so we can check for updates. There's a how-to file, so how to use brackets. So opening that up is going to open up that same wiki that we were looking at earlier. So that's going to open up this wiki, how to use brackets, and this is definitely worth going through, as well as getting familiar with all these shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. So these are some of them are common ones that are used. And then flipping back into here, so we're able to again interact with those GitHub repositories and that GitHub information. We can show our extension folder as well, and that opens up all the different extensions. So if you're downloading zipped extensions and you're installing them, that's the folder that everything's in. We also have a health report as well, so it tells us some information about what we're using. Within brackets, just go into the brackets homepage, brackets on Twitter, and then just about brackets. So quite a lot of information there. So as well, I'm going to be including all of these links within the resource file of this course as well, so you can get familiar with brackets and all the resources that we've talked about within this course. So definitely check out brackets. It is a free download, and it's a really good, powerful editor to pull in and to work with when you are creating code. I also wanted to quickly go over the menu here on the right hand side. So we do have an option to do a connection to the live preview here as well, so we see what's happening there, and we also see that there's a new version of brackets available. So this is what this one indicates, so I can click it, and as well I can go over there and I can see that there's a new version. So I can do a quick download going over to the website. And this is going to prompt me all the way through to download the new version of brackets. So it's going to download on my machine, and then I can simply do an install of brackets. So it's going to download that full size brackets file. So I just had to reload brackets, but we can see here that I've got my ability to do the live preview. So these are some shortcuts. Again, making it more simpler, instead of the keyboard shortcuts, we've got these one-click shortcuts, also to open up Extension Manager. So the same thing as going through this format, but we have the capability of opening it up within these quick one-click shortcuts. And you'll see here that even though as we add in additional extensions and we allow different options within brackets, we're going to see that we'll get more of these one-click shortcuts that are available. So that's how to use this quick menu here on the right-hand side. I also wanted to quickly go over the menu here on the right hand side. So we do have an option to do a connection to the live preview here as well, so we see what's happening there, and we also see that there's a new version of brackets available. So this is what this one indicates. So I can click it, and as well I can go over there and I can see that there's a new version. So I can do a quick download going over to the website. And this is going to prompt me all the way through to download the new version of brackets. So it's going to download on my machine, and then I can simply do an install of brackets. So it's going to download that full size brackets file. So I just had to reload brackets, but we can see here that I've got my ability to do the live preview. So these are some shortcuts. Again, making it more simpler, instead of the keyboard shortcuts, we've got these one-click shortcuts, also to open up Extension Manager. So the same thing as going through this format, but we have the capability of opening it up within these quick one-click shortcuts. And you'll see here that even though as we add in additional extensions and we allow different options within brackets, we're going to see that we'll get more of these one-click shortcuts that are available. So that's how to use this quick menu here on the right-hand side.